This is a video on Lesson 8, and in Lesson 8 we're going to be learning a new data type. That new data type is called a Boolean variable, and you may not have ever heard Boolean, or you might remember it from some of your math classes, but Boolean variables are basically true-false variables. The variable either has the value of true or it has the value of false. So it's really a pretty simple thing, and so I have a little sample here that I'm going to use to introduce this. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create what is called a Boolean variable, just like you would normally type the word int or double, all right, or string. Well, this time we're going to type Boolean. All right, we'll give the Boolean a variable a name, and I'm going to use simple names. I'm just going to say Boolean variable. The name is A, and it equals true. All right, and now notice that I used the word true. The word true showed up in purple here in Eclipse, and that means that it is a Java keyword, and it doesn't have to have quotes around it because it is a value. All right, so true is a value, and I could have another Boolean variable, B, and that could equal false. So there I've created and I've declared two different Boolean variables, and I've initialized them and set them to true and set them to false. Now, I could have done them separately, but in this case I chose just to put them in there together. Now, if I wanted to change that value, I could initialize it with something else, and I could initialize this value to say, for example, that A equals false. All right, and now I've just changed the value that was there. Or I could set the value and I could say B, and I could say that B is going to be that 10 is greater than 11. All right, now you'll notice that I'm making a statement here and I'm saying 10 is greater than 11. Well, 10 is not greater than 11, therefore it is false. So now if I wanted to print these two variables out, I could do a system.out.println, and I could print A, or I could do a system.out.println, and I could say print the value of B. All right, so I declared the Boolean variable A, and I initialized it to true. Then I changed it to false, so when it prints I would expect the word false to appear. And then up here I made Boolean variable B equal false, and then I made B equal 10 is greater than 11. And so what will it print here? Well, I know that 10 is not greater than 11, therefore it is false, so B should print out as false. Right, if I run this program right now, I would expect to find B, or A, is false and B is false. So let's go ahead and save this and run it, and you can see up here, indeed, they both are false. And of course, I could make a little change, and I could turn this around and say this is less than. Okay, so 10 is less than 11. Well, 10 is less than 11, therefore it is now true. All right, so really pretty easy. A Boolean variable, B-O-O-L-E-A-N with a lowercase b. In Java there is an uppercase B version, but we're not going to cover that in this class. So for now we'll just use lowercase Boolean, and you can use the same variable naming rules that we've used for other variables. All right, now there's another thing that we can do is we can do comparisons. I've sort of started it right here. I use the comparison operator of less than. All right, and so there are other ones that I can use. For example, if I want to say system.out.println, all right, and I want to say A is the same as B. Okay, and notice I used two equal signs, and I did not say the word equals. I said the same as. And old story is that my first programming instructor taught me that never say the word equals, and the reason why is you will type one equal sign, and that is not how you do a comparison. An equal sign is assignment. For example, up here I've used a single equal sign. That means I'm going to take the value of false and I'm going to assign it to A. All right, so it's always going from right to left when you do assignment. So if I want to compare two things, I use two equal signs, and I don't say the word equals, or else I'll do something that doesn't work. I'll say this equals that. It's not comparison. I'll say A is the same as B. All right, so even in class, I will always say A is the same as B. All right, and then when I say the same as, I'll type 2 equal signs. So get in the habit of doing that yourself. Don't say equals, say the same as, because you're comparing those two operators. All right, and so if I save this and I run it, now you can see that A is the same as B. Well, A is false and B is true, so obviously they are not the same. All right, so how can I make it say they are not the same? I put system.out.println, and there's a special operator that we can use. It's called the not operator. All right, and so I say A is not equal to, or not the same, all right, as B. All right, and now this is the exclamation point. The exclamation point means not, or not equal to. All right, and so if I say A is not equal to B, well, that's true. A is false and B is true. They are not the same, so therefore it is true. All right, so these are called Boolean expressions that I'm writing here. All right, and I can do less than, greater than, but to do that, you really can't say true is less than, greater than with false. So instead, what I'll do is I'll create an integer x, and I'll make x equal 10, and an integer y equals 15. All right, and now I want to compare to see if one is less than the other. So I'll put a system.out.println. Okay, oops, if I can type this morning. All right, and I'll say x is less than y. Okay, so if x is less than y, I can say that, and indeed x is less than y because 10 is less than 15. All right, and obviously the opposite of that would be system.out.println, and I would say x is greater than y. All right, and x, of course, 10 is not greater than 15, therefore it prints false. So this whole Boolean thing is all about true and false, and these are called Boolean expressions. I'm just doing some comparisons, really easy between those two. All right, now if I wanted to, I could make a complex statement, and that complex statement, I'm going to move this up the screen a little bit, would involve being able to do two comparisons. And so if I wanted to print out two things, I could put system.out.println. All right, and I could say that A is the same as B. Okay, and then I'm going to use the ampersand sign and say X is the same as, same as Y. All right, and so I have system.out.println, A is the same as B, and X is the same as Y. And this AND operator, all right, what AND means in Boolean logic, and these are called logical operators, AND means that both sides have to be true. And so A is the same as B, X is the same as Y. If we go back up here, we can see that A and B are not the same. So that makes this false. And with the rule for ANDing things is that if one side is false, the whole thing is false. So if I save this and I print it, all right, you see I get the value of false because the very first part of it, and that's also something called short-circuiting. Once the computer runs across a false statement with an AND, it just stops. It doesn't go any further. You know, I could have errors beyond this. It wouldn't matter because they AND. Now, if I change this, I could use the OR operator, which is two up and down lines, which is shift and the backslash key. And so now I'm saying A is the same as B, or X is the same as Y. All right. So with an OR statement, either one of them can be true in order for the whole thing to be true. So I look at A, well, A and B are not the same. X and Y are not the same. So when I save it and run it, well, it's still going to end up being false because they're both false. So let's change the expression, and I'll say here that, for example, X is less than or equal to Y. So now I'm saying, okay, 10 is not the same, or true is not the same as false. Okay, because I've made the expressions here. Actually, A is false, and in this case, this is true. Right? And now I come down here and I say A is the same as B. Well, A is not the same as B, but x is less than equal to y. So because it's an or statement, I can save this and run it. And now notice that, okay, it's a true statement just because one of them is the same. Now there's one last operator, and that last operator is called the not operator. All right, and we talked about the not operator being used right here as part of the comparison operator. But what I can do is I can use that, and I can put parentheses around one part of this, and then I'm going to put a not sign on the outside. So now I always evaluate what is in the parentheses first. So A is the same as B. Well, we know that A and B are not the same. One's true and one's false. But so this is a false statement on the inside, but the not sign outside of those parentheses tells me switch it around. So now I have true or, and at this point I have another short-circuiting situation where the first part is true or. Well, if either side is true, it makes the whole expression true. So I could have a really long expression off to the right here. It wouldn't matter because as soon as it hits true or, the whole thing is true. And so I'll go ahead and save this and run it. And you can see that with the whole expression being true, it will be true. Now in this case, both sides are true. So let's make this false. Let's go back and make this greater than equal to. So this is not a true statement. It is not greater than, and it is not equal to. It's false. But it doesn't matter because it still runs as true because I have a true, kind of a true false. It's a not false statement in front of it. Okay? So anyway, those are the different logic operators and how they can work. All right, you're going to run into something called a truth table. And we'll show you that truth table worksheet in a second video. All right, so for now, go ahead and read lesson number 8. It looks kind of like this. It goes through and it talks about the ands. Ignore this single equal sign. The author is just trying to talk about it for right now. Later on, he'll get into the double equal sign. All right, so this is the correct way to compare two of them. All right, here's the truth tables that I'll make a separate video for, and I'll show you how to start filling out the worksheet for the truth table for this lesson. All right, there's no code to write here. And then you can go through and there's some samples here that you can read, and they tell you what the answer is, so just make sure you understand how it works. It's similar to what I just explained. They'll talk about the operator precedence, and for right now, the only thing you really need to know is that the not operator comes before all of them. So if you ever see a not sign, evaluate the not sign first. All right, this is the same as, this is not equal to. All right, and if you're comparing an and an or, and we'll discuss this in the truth table worksheet, the and comes first unless there's parentheses, and the or is last. Sort of like multiplication and division come first before addition and subtraction. And it makes a difference which way you do it. If you do it in the wrong order, you'll get the wrong answer. Okay? All right, so go ahead and read this, and then down here at the bottom of the lesson, there's a few questions here to go through. There is no code, there's no code exercise, but there is a truth table worksheet, and I'll make a separate video for that. See you then.